Mike Stark, CEO of Arizona Gold and Silver, joins me today, July 18th, 2024. We're going to be talking about Arizona Gold and in primarily their flagship property, their Philadelphia property located in Arizona. Before I get into it, though, and kind of turn things over to Mike and start chatting a bit about what story he has to tell us today, always same disclaimers, everybody, right? That this is going to be blue sky conversations and forward-looking statements will be made. And yeah, that full disclaimer will be in the notes below. Anyway, Mike, yeah, thank you for your time. We've chatted before, but it's been a couple years, so this is kind of have a foot in both worlds where maybe a little bit of a reintroduction to your company, to Arizona Gold, but then also, I think importantly, the timing is right now for us to meet again. So I guess, yeah, thanks for your time coming on, and how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Matt, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's truly a pleasure.
Yeah, no, I always enjoy our conversations. You and I have ongoing correspondence. I thought I would probably just, rather than taking 15 minutes and kind of, slogging our way through the slide deck with people, I kind of just have up already maybe the Cole's Notes versions here, but maybe do you just want to talk through a little bit of the data I have on the screen here for people and just kind of introduce us briefly to Arizona Gold?
Sure, be glad to. Basically, as it's indicating, it's a $30 million market cap company right now, which I believe is extremely undervalued, but that's, of course, a personal point. We've had a higher share price in the past, and subsequent to the doldrums in the market, we're all experiencing this, I know, but this is a significant time for Arizona Gold and Silver. We've recently received a BLM permit that we've been waiting for almost 2 years on, and this is a 40-hole program. So designed from 2 pads, one on the the southern section, one midsection of the property, that will go down deeper than we've been able to drill before. But the Rising Fawn claim has some of our best intercepts to date, ranging from 1.34 grams, 1.4 grams, 1.5 gram material, up to 115 meters in length. We are now stepping back from those, drilling below the 700-foot level where we intersected those values, going down to as much as 1,000, maybe even 1,100 feet. The opportunity here is now when this resource, we believe, we're hitting the source in the heat zone of where this material came from.
And so like you say, you've touched on a couple of things that we'll get to here, right? This BLM permitting, which of course anybody who knows the game knows that can be a lengthy process. And so you did a pretty good job, and kind of tip of the hat to you and your team to be able to keep progressing this story while you're waiting for these critical permits for the Red Hill, which we'll get to. But yeah, the past couple of years, it's been a little bit of kind of hurry up and wait for you as you kind of poke around the edges. Maybe let's just, what I have up here for people is just for context is this, in white is, and please, Mike, tell me where I misspeak at all, but white is Arizona property. This sort of this longer rectangular shape here is what we're focusing on today. And then primarily that red circle is current exploration as we see here. Why don't you just run through the significance of Red Hill? Because yeah, here it is, right? I mean, the last couple of weeks, you finally got fully permitted exploration for up to 40 holes. Why is that such an important, in terms of timing for stories and in terms of people coming across this story now, why is this such an important piece of news?
Okay. So to date, we've been able to establish this long 1.5 kilometer, 1.6 kilometer long strike length. We've got continuous hits along that entire vein system. That's called the Arabian Fault. The zone varies in thickness. It can go from 30 meters to as much as 115 meters, which as I indicated at the Rising Fawn. Through very careful dissemination, Greg is putting together the pieces. This is a piece of a puzzle that you all have to put together. At the very north end, we've got some fantastic hits with some really high-grade silver. As we start to progress south, silver drops off and gold picks up. So again, illustrating that little circle that you see is the heat zone. There's a better image. The heat zone, we understand, is where this material is coming from. And it's bled out along that vein system that allowed it to come to surface. Circle areas, we've got outcropping where we can distinguish that this is it's part of the high-grade vein. There's also 1.5 kilometers south of where we've only drilled to date that the vein continues. That's another permitting process. Right now, Greg feels that it's best for us, and I agree. We go down into the heat of the system, prove this, and then, of course, people will start asking questions about ounces. It can be significant. I'm not going to go out over the limb here. We know what we have already, obviously by calculations we created ourselves. This will significantly increase the ounces, providing I'm always careful. Look, every indication is this is where it is. It's in the truth machine, which is the drill, and then the lab, of course.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this Red Hill, right, and the being able to actually drill out what looks to, and it's very reasonable, right? Every company, every junior explorer has their own working thesis, their own working model. Some are more evidence based than others. Some are more valid or more reasonable than others. This, to me, and part of why I like Arizona Gold is that you've already, as you say, done a significant amount of success in proving up a pretty meaningful bulk tonnage resource as is, and you haven't even got to the quote unquote good stuff yet, because this flow dome, this pressure cooker where all of this disseminated mineralization is coming from, is this Red Hill as your working thesis, right? And again, that's not a extremely that's not some sort of out on a limb sort of understanding of how these things form. Maybe do you want to just discuss for people, right, the geological formation of the Red Hill? Can I go into more details of what I just said there? What evidence do you have, geophysical info, et cetera, do you have that supports this thesis that the feeder zone, the source of all of what you've been drilling so far, is in this Red Hill?
Be glad to. The Oatman District is the characteristics of this area is the deeper you drill, obviously the closer you get to the heat and the source of material. This is a classic here. That clay cap that's been over top of this volcanic eruption for millions of years has prevented any outflow. If it would have penetrated that, it's up to about 100 meters thick sometimes, 30 meters in some cases, but it's not allowed any of the fluids to go out. So the fluids were looking for an opportunity. And of course, the Arabian Fault created that. When that fault occurred, the fluids came up and expressed all the way along for 3 kilometers. Now that's a classic example again of how these things work. What we're going to establish now, we've drilled the perimeter and we've had these fantastic results. This model that next we will drill, there's a slide I provided, the next 4 holes will actually touch what we believe is the heart of it on the 90-degree drill hole. So we're following along what we previously drilled with these fantastic intercepts to go into this next phase where it gets wider, down to 1,000 feet. Here is what the drill holes are examining. As an example of one of our previous holes, hole 91, we got down to just about 700 feet, 715 feet. The grades started to increase. They went from 1 gram to almost 3 grams. And the material that we were looking for was starting to become more predominant, the green and yellow quartz. Unfortunately, as we've publicly stated, the rods got stuck and we left it in 2.87 gram material down just over 800 feet. Now that is so disappointing, but at the other hand, that was the first time in 91 holes we had any trouble. So again, it happens. We now have 130 holes into the system. We even have a better understanding now. And I will say that Greg is adamant that this is where the heart is. I would love to see these results as soon as possible. This is where we believe the heat and the source of the material is coming from. Providing we prove this, this is the TSN turning point for the company. This is where the big numbers will start showing up.
Where it starts to get serious. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think, this cross section you have here does a good job. I mean, here's your dome, right? Here's this signature.
Exactly.
And then you have, as you say, these 3 holes. I mean, a nice cross section, average 74 meters of almost 1.5 grams per ton gold through this. And this thickening, as you say, as you get into this feeder zone, this source under this dome, it's a very valid thing. I mean, you're already knocking on the door with proven mineralization again. So there's one of these things where there's a lot of potential, but also a lot of realistic understanding of why that potential is not just kind of pie in the sky. So yeah, we talked about this, right? And I do want to go into I think the bulk of our conversation. It makes sense. I do want to talk about this upcoming drill campaign because of why it is this high impact turning point for you guys. But I just wanted to touch on briefly. You, like I said, I give you credit. You know, you guys have been busy, even while we're waiting for this BLM over the past couple of years. So here we talk about your Red Fawn and Resaka drill camp programs that just came back. If people go through your news on your website, they'll see results were, you know, middling, not maybe as much as we were hoping for, right? Here's some here, right? Still nice and thick, and something that might ultimately end up, you know, parts of it being mineable, right? In terms of grade, potentially above any cutoff if you're doing open pit. But what can you just kind of run through there? I mean, will you be returning to these gaps more, or is this something that you've kind of pulled the plug on and you're going to move away from now, transition away from?
Well, good question, by the way. And yeah, sure. I mean, is anybody ever happy with the results? If you got 1 gram, you wanted 3, right? No,
Yeah.
that's always a factor. I'm not disappointed, and here's a couple of reasons why. We've defined another target. Probably, I mean, realistically, about 100 meters away from one of our drill holes, we saw 20-gram material. Now, that's in the attic, in the channel sampling above. So Greg has taken that result and given us an area now to drill below that hill where we should intersect that. So no, as much as a lot of these holes actually hit mineralization, but they were below our cutoff grade. So in which case we don't calculate. That's very simple. I mean, they're not a miss, but they did not come into a grade above where we wanted to have.
Mm-hmm.
As of late, these holes had to be drilled because everybody's asking the question, hey, how do you know it's here? How do you know it's not? This is a very classic system and very, very, very much like anything else. This vein shrinks and swells. Maybe this is where part of the vein was not allowed to surface. So therefore, either maybe we missed it going over or under it, whatever the case may be, but it wasn't as big a grade as we were hoping for. That's a fact. But we also gained a lot more knowledge. And of course, we had to drill this to find out, was it there or not? It's weaker. Move over to where the area is much stronger, which is what we're doing now. And let's get into that 20-gram material and start showing some width. Do remember, just about 50 meters over from that, we hit 72.5 grams per ton. We're over 6 feet. I mean, that's a delightful zone. This is the mystery to these systems. You just don't know where it is, and you have to drill to find out.
Yeah.
Would we go back into these areas? Absolutely, we would, providing we have a reason to do so. I know now where a couple of these holes are going to go, and again, providing we're fortunate, we should intersect up to 20-gram material. That attic was a very good display of the vein system without having to pay for it. That was $1 million if we were to try to reproduce that today. Thankfully, the old timers did it with a pick and an axe. I can't even imagine the work that they got involved with to do that. But we've got a picture on our website of the attic, and it goes 126 feet. It's entirely mineralized, the entire strike length, with a hanging wall vein of over 20-gram material. That didn't come from the sky, so it had to come from below. We're going to be drilling into that after the next holes on the BLM permitted process. As far as the conversation, how did we get here? I'm proud of the fact that we utilize our capital so efficiently. Our burn rate is extremely low. You can check our financials. Greg and I do not pay ourselves handsomely at all. And yet we're one of the largest shareholders of the company. That's another matter again, but I'm proud of that. So what we've done, I've analyzed a couple of times. We've had 91% of the dollar go in the ground. I'm extremely pleased about that, Matt. And I'm not throwing mud at anybody else. People have the right to do what they want and how they run their own company. But to date, and I intend to continue this, money goes into the ground. That's where your value comes from. The more we can prove in value to our shareholders, the better we'll all be.
Well, no, I will attest to a personal comment, and you know, you and I have known each other for a couple of years, but you are one of the hardest grinding CEOs I think I've met in terms of your approach and how much work you put in. So no, kudos to you. Let's talk a couple of other things here. I want to end up talking about the drill campaign as I've mentioned, but maybe let's talk about this resource, right? So in a previous interview, Greg Hahn, what's the quote? Very close to being able to quantify 1 to 2 million ounces is a quote that from him. You've resisted in previous conversations we've had, and I think this is reasonable. You've resisted the idea of putting a resource out because you just know it's going to be bigger, right? You had the Red Hill to wait on. Why are you going to waste time and creating, artificially low expectations on the market when give us a couple years, something good will drop and we'll do one then, right? Maybe let's start this conversation around asking us just around meterage, right? I guess maybe how many meters of drilling will it take, and in terms of pads and holes and depth, to infill to get to that, that squishy middle 1 to 2 million ounces? Not new exploration, but just if how many more meters do you need to actually kind of get those numbers officially on the board?
Okay. Let's put it in terms of holes, and I think that'll be the easiest for everybody to understand. Most companies to date that we've witnessed take 400 to 500 holes to prove up 1.5, maybe 2 million ounces. This is one of the most aggressive systems that Greg has ever had the privilege of working on. At 131 holes, 130, holes now, I'm overwhelmed at how large this is already. And we have not seen any limitations. We have not seen a dead hole where nothing comes out of it. So the first question is, will we, and when we will? I will gladly do a resource when we start to see some limitations, Matt. And there's no point spending $400,000 to $500,000 US, and then in the next 4 holes, they're all gangbuster holes. And now you've just eliminated that resource because it's much bigger. I really consciously want to do that. So the answer to the question is probably 200 holes. Will be more than ready to do so. But I don't want to waste shareholders' money when we find out the next 10 holes, 15 holes all hit, and then someone's going to say, well, you're much bigger. I don't want to limit us. Again, people have the means. I mean, we've got over 7 CAs signed on the company. And I'll proudly mention one of the comments. I asked them, what was the reason most intriguing you here? Well, we wouldn't be here unless you had over 1 million ounces. Now, that was several months ago. The numbers actually are not hard to figure out, providing you put the formula together. And the formula is available. It's not hard to do. We have what we believe well over 1 million ounces already. Now, that's got to be proven in a 43-101 before we can talk like that. But the numbers speak for themselves. And we have not had anything that discourages us whatsoever. More so, this BLM drilling is what is really intriguing us now.
Yeah, and it really does feel like your company was a little bit hampered or chained up a little bit. And I think that's I don't think I'm making an outlandish comment there, but it's just one of those things that now's the time, right? That now it's done. And I think that, if you have not come across Arizona Gold before, or you do, but, don't have a full position, then this is one of those moments where you have to pay attention, because the bad news is gone, and then there's clear skies ahead. No, the timing is strong on this one.
Exactly.
I guess maybe let's talk about holes then, right? So, you're operating in the States, and so you kind of have 1 foot in metric, 1 foot in imperial, but I'll stick with the Canadian meters here. But 200 or 300 meters per hole. How many holes do you expect to drill in 2024?
Well, that all depends on budgets and capital, more importantly.
Sure.
We're looking at these first 4 to get the initiation of the drill program going. Capital will be needed, and it always is. Capital is desperately needed for juniors at all times.
Yep.
But again, I'll go back to the pleasure of saying that 91% of our dollar, 90% of our dollar goes in the ground, so it's utilized properly. This program will run several $1 million if we do all 40 holes. Not if, when we do all 40 holes. That's over a year's worth of drilling minimum, and that's using 1 rig. We're talking, look, if the numbers come in and we do raise a big amount of capital, we probably would put 2 drill rigs on the property to expedite that for shareholder value. Look, if this is as big as we potentially think it is, there's going to be people knocking on the door. There's no question about that. This is the TSN turning point where everybody's going, hey, if it's here, it's big. And let's put a little bit of promotion into this. If it's here on this little section, look east on that big property ownership. Look at the size of that anomaly that sits out there. There's 5 of them out there, and it's over 30 times larger than our current drill program. Now, let's not get over our skis too far, but that's a permitting process. That's a mapping process. Greg is actually answering narration questions right now that are going to explain why it's going to take so long. However, you want to see more blue sky than that? Look to the north. It's even a larger anomaly, a larger anomaly next to what was the old Frisco mine, which again, we believe is another heat source where material could be found. So this has got a lot of future to it, a lot of value that I believe shareholders will receive in the future, but it's being patient. That's the hardest thing for anybody, to be patient. But check management out. We've never sold a share. We continue to add to our positions. We have not sold one share ever. I'm looking for the buyout that potentially can happen for us where we get a 20, 30, 40% premium to our stock price. That's what I'm patient for. I'm not going out and taking loans out that I can't afford to pay for. I just chip away and buy stock. I bought the other day. I tried to buy 15,000. I only got 5. That's the nature of the beast sometimes. Look, it's just continue to hold. And I can assure you we're going to be in for some very good times ahead. Not only for the fact that gold prices are rising, that's another matter, but the value of this property is increasing with every drill hole.
Well, and I will give, again, I give you credit. You have been an excellent steward of shareholder value so far, right? I mean, you've been around for a few years at this point, very little overhang, very little dilution, right? I mean, $150 US per meter drilling costs. You utilize an RC rig. And as you say, I mean, the vast majority of every dollar goes into the ground. In terms of wanting to have a CEO and an executive team that's actually protecting shareholder value, this is a good one. Let's keep talking here a little bit. I think that, you talked about the sheer size and scale and potential of Red Hill, and I think that's why it's exciting, because that is, very right up on the docket. This is happening. I guess when can we see, this little fan pattern here? When might that begin to happen?
Well, we're in discussions right now. The final arrangements with the BLM permitting process is underway. The next step would be to actually level the pad, which is not going to be very difficult. We have a pad preparation crew ready to go, and then the drill crew. One of the things that's being discussed is obviously the temperature right now. We were just down on the property with another company, and it was 49 degrees Celsius and 52 the second day. That is not comfortable for anybody. I don't care. So there's an element of concern, and it's very evident in Greg's history too. You do not risk personnel ever. I couldn't even imagine what would happen if somebody even just had a dizzy spell and that somebody wanted to do an investigation. Well, everything would be shut down. However, the drill companies that we're talking to both have misters, and that can drop your temperature 10, 15 degrees. And that's very, very comfortable, dropping it from 120 down to 100 degrees, let's say. So that's being discussed. And again, it's up to Mother Nature. I mean, there's no question, the later we go, which maybe be mid-August, the temperature drops 15 to 20 degrees anyways. And then put a little misting system onto that. Now you're into 90s as opposed to 100 or 105. It's very comfortable.
Downright comfortable, yeah.
The first respect is to the personnel, and we've got to be that way, and I wouldn't do it any other way. But as far as waiting for anything now, we're just in the final stages of this. Look forward to some news releases that'll be coming in the very near future.
Yeah. And so, let's say, give it a month roughly for spud. These are fast holes, they're short holes. These ones are a little deeper still, but not very deep. RC. I guess, what's your lab turnaround time these days for where you are?
Let's back that up a little bit, Matt. These are all going to be core for now on.
Hey, yeah. Good. That was my next question: is when do you switch to core? So there you go. All right. Well, let's ask that question.
Because of the nature of the beast here, the holes that you see above with those great intersects, we're reaching the elements of the limits of the RC rig. So, and it's time to do show and tell. I mean, sure, it's costly. It's more costly than RC. But when you have a defined target, anybody that's interested in looking at material is looking at core because it's
you need
fire.
core.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, there you go. You anticipated a question perfectly. I was going to ask it. At some point, you need core, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, the efficiency of RC. Well, good. There you go. So I guess same question then. Lab turnaround time for where you are these days.
Because we're not anything in the lab right now, or sorry, we've got one hole coming back, but it was quicker than normal because of the lack of material in the lab. That changes literally week to week, day to day, depending on who's in front of you. If you get some of these larger companies, Newmont, that just brings in 50,000 meters, well, guess what? You're going to wait a little longer. Our turnaround was just about 8 weeks last time. That's not bad. It's certainly not the best we've seen. And we do have the capability of putting a rush on it. That just cost everybody a little bit more. But if the general feeling is that we need to do that, we've done it in the past. So turnaround will be discussed upon when we put material in the lab. But so far, we've witnessed between 1 month and 2 months return. And I wish I could help more than that. I literally don't know because we don't have material in the lab. But I mean, even if I called them, it could change the next day.
And valid, right? And I just think that the overall the point here is that the next quarter or so, the next few months, shaping up to be, like you say, very potentially definitive for future of Arizona Gold in a positive sense. And and from an investing horizon, those few months, it's not a lot to ask for, right?
Yeah.
So I guess maybe honestly, we talked about drill core, and that kind of took off one of the last couple of questions here. Just a little kind of a one-off question here. You recently added somebody to your as a special advisor, pardon me, to Philip Yee. I mean, look into his. Please, if you're interested in him, look into his history and his past. But I mean, he has quite the resume. And I guess I just wanted to ask, like, how did that come about? Do you or Greg know him on a personal level? I mean, this guy has Kirkland Lake, Eldorado Gold. He's now recently retired, and now he's kind of chosen to come off the bench and join you guys. What's the story there? How did that come to pass?
Actually, Phil came through us through Jim Engel, one of our other directors. And as it states, Phil is coming as an advisor to myself. And I couldn't be more pleased. I couldn't be more happy. I mean, his track record speaks for itself. What basically attracted Phil was the fact that how the company's being run, how the money's being spent, being that he was a CFO many times himself, and the property, what potentially here is going to be released in the next coming months of what we can see underneath the Red Hill. It is a very integral time for anybody to get involved, but more so, as he said, I'm coming out of retirement. I need a little bit of something to do. He has mentioned that he wouldn't mind coming onto the board in the future. He's just got to take care of some personal things first. But in the short period of time, it's been 3 months we were talking before he came on. I couldn't be happier with his due diligence, his method of proceeding. He's very, very detailed, which only helps all of us, but more importantly, helps me and my help, helping the company, that is. But just look at the record. It speaks for itself. I mean, he's 6 for 6. That's phenomenal in this business. And again, he brings integrity. He also brings a lot of wisdom and his connections with some very, very large institutions as well.
Yeah, it seems particularly from us that those interpersonal connections, any future M&A, seems like he could be a critical figure in that.
That's a very good point. Jim is an expert in both U.S. and Canadian law, and he's done many mergers and acquisitions in both Canada and the United States. Look at Phil's transcript. It's amazing. So this all helps the team, and I really consider us all a team. I couldn't be happier. We've got Kathy Fitzgerald just came on before him. What a dynamic young lady. Very versed in resource calculations, very versed in modern technology that is used in today's mining world. I mean, again, the team just gets a little bit stronger, a little bit better all the time. I'm very proud of this, very proud of this.
And that's what I find in this game is good teams have a way to keep getting better, right? Just kind of another sports analogy there, right? You just keep picking up those free agents.
Well, I'm glad he came out of retirement. That's what.
Well, there it is. It's you guys. This is your cup run. So anyway, Mike, I'll turn it to you. I mean, this is the end of the conversation as far as I'm concerned. Anything you want people to know as we sign off?
No, I think you hit the head right on the nail. this is the big TSN turning point. I look forward to these upcoming months where we start seeing these results. These are going to be the deepest and the longest holes we've ever drilled. My view on these first four, once one is done, get it to the lab. Let's get the shareholders the value that they believe they're entitled to. We all do. This is potentially the biggest moment for Arizona Gold and Silver going forward.
CEO Mike Stark, Arizona Gold and Silver, trades on the TSX-V under AZS, on OTC AZASF. Mike, thanks for your time, and I look forward to our next catch-up time. Maybe we can celebrate some great assays next time, eh?
I look forward to that as well. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye now.